Hey, so you know that game company called Insomniac that's making a new Spider-Man game for the PS4? Well, they made a game exclusively for the Xbox One called Sunset Overdrive. I wonder if it's any good. Let's find out. Here are my 2 cents on Sunset Overdrive. When Insomniac's new game got announced at E3 2013, fans had some mixed reactions. Insomniac is most known for games such as Resistance, Spyro, as well as the Ratchet and Clank games. So with that in mind, I can understand the fans' confusion when Sunset Overdrive was going to be an Xbox One exclusive. There was another trailer shown at E3 2014, and it was that trailer that made me excited to play this game. Just looking at it, I could tell that this was going to be a fun action game that I would hopefully enjoy. Sunset Overdrive starts off in the year 2027. A company named Fizzco has released a new energy drink called Overcharge to the people of Sunset City. This is when we see the player. He, or she, is the janitor at this launch party for the new drink when, all of a sudden, people start turning into monsters. The monsters, or mutants, are referred to as OD for Overcharge Drinker. They start destroying the city and chaos ensues. After the player is done fighting a huge one with an oddly shaped gun, he escapes and locks himself in his crummy apartment. Days pass and the city has turned into a colorful wasteland. Fizzco now has to cover up the incident, so they have quarantined the whole city and have allowed no one to get in or out. But it's not all bad. You have an entire city to explore, and now that it's the apocalypse, let's have some fun. The first 30 minutes of this game should tell you what you are getting in for. Grinding, shooting, and a whole lot of jokes. It leaves a good impression on you, starting with gameplay that's fast and frantic, and having some really great cutscenes on top of that. But on the other hand, you can instantly tell if this is a game for you after those 30 minutes are done. Its brand of humor can best be described as vulgar, lowbrow, with a hint of video game fourth wall breaking jokes that would be right at home in a Deadpool game. In any case, Sunset Overdrive opens with a strong start, and it gives you a basic idea of what to expect from the game. In case you couldn't tell, Sunset Overdrive is also an open world game. However, it isn't a Ubisoft open world, so you can expect this world to not have pointless collectibles for the sake of achievements. Hooray! Unfortunately, this world isn't that fun to explore for long periods of time. Now, that isn't to say that it's a flat world and there is nothing to see, because my god, look at these colors, but the big problem here is the lack of a reason to not fast travel. It could take a very long time to get to your next mission if you don't use fast travel, but if you don't use fast travel, then you can get some collectibles scattered across the map that you can use to buy upgrades that, unfortunately, you don't really need. Not only can you find these collectibles while in missions, but you get upgrades as rewards for completing missions. The combat can best be described as a fast and frantic third-person shooter. If you want a comparison, it's a bit reminiscent of Jet Set Radio, but with third-person shooting controls and crazy guns that would feel right at home in a Ratchet and Clank game. The main mode of combat is guns, though you do have a melee attack if you wish to use it. But nah, it's all about them guns, baby, and there are some crazy guns. Like, if you thought Ratchet and Clank having a gun that turns people into sheep was odd, then get a load of these. You have a gun that can shoot records, a gun that spits acid everywhere, and a gun that shoots fireworks out. How about this gun that can spawn a turret and shoot for you? There's a lot of crazy guns here. It also helps that every single one of them is surprisingly useful. You will be getting new guns after completing missions, but you can also buy some from a shop. Now, don't go thinking you need to buy these, because the guns you get just by completing missions are good enough. I mean, I use the first gun you get throughout the entire game because it's really useful, but they are there if you want some variety in your arsenal. Each gun uses their own ammo, but you can only carry a select number of them at a time, and each gun can level up, increasing their damage and ammo capacity. It's because of this that I find myself not really switching out to different weapons and trying them out, because why would I give up my level 5 weapon for a level 1 weapon? So even though there is a lot of useful guns here, I tend to just stick with the ones that I already am using. But again, I appreciate that there is some variety here. However, this is just one aspect of the combat. The other half is style. By now, you probably noticed this lightning bolt bar. That is your style meter, and it's also what sets this game apart from other third-person shooters. This is a shooter where you will be constantly on the move and shooting at the same time. While you're grinding, shooting, and parkouring, you will be filling up this meter, and as it fills up, you'll get some buffs and added abilities. These can be from fireballs when you swing your melee weapon to things that you jump on will explode, and there are even more than that. Remember when I was talking about the whole upgrades thing a little while ago? Well, those are referred to as amps. These amps can range from just upgrading your character to upgrading your guns once you get them to level 2, and of course changing the buffs that you get for your style meter. The upgrading system in this game is actually not really bad, but in order to get new upgrades, you actually will have to play this tower defense section. In these parts of the game, you will have to defend 1 to 3 VATs from getting destroyed by OD. You will get to set up traps beforehand, and you also have to manage your energy, as you can't just have an infinite number of traps. After you set the traps, the OD swarm the area, and you have to hold them off until the time runs out. There are waves, and after each wave, you do get some time to make adjustments to your traps or add new ones. These sections are just a blast to play, and perfectly fitting with the style and fast-paced gameplay of Sunset Overdrive. However, one aspect of the gameplay that I don't particularly like is the side missions. There are just a lot of side missions here, and this is not to say that side missions in an open world game are bad or anything, but I kind of have a problem when almost all your side missions are fetch quests. In most of these side missions, you'll just be going from point A to point B, collecting an item or maybe just shooting some OD or robots or scabs, and then going back to the person and saying, hey, I did it, and collecting your money. There are also just some side missions that overstay their welcome, like by a lot. Take, for example, this one where you're collecting comics. There's actually 3 side missions where you are collecting comics, and it's just you going to areas and trying to collect this comic, then bringing him back to the guy and then saying, oh wait, there's another shit over here, and it just gets so boring and repetitive. I just wanted to stop already. But the good thing about side missions is that they're optional. Well, I mean, unless you want achievements, but if you don't care about that, then hey, don't worry. You don't have to do the side missions if you don't really want to. I just wish that they weren't all fetch quests and at least try to do something a bit different. But overall, Sunset Overdrive's gameplay is solid, even though it can get a bit repetitive at points. It's just a shame that the story of Sunset Overdrive, well, kind of sucks. If you were hoping that Sunset Overdrive would have a deep plot with characters that are wonderfully crafted, then you best look somewhere else. This game has a plot that is not only repetitive, but just doesn't have any real depth. The basic structure is going to a group of survivors, doing missions for them, then once you are done, meeting another group of survivors who can do more missions, repeat ad nauseum. Each group introduces some wacky characters, but none of them have any real depth. Take, for example, the LARPers, where the joke is that they are LARPers. That's funny, right? Well, there is actually one of them that doesn't act like the rest, but she's just kind of there, and they don't really do anything with her. I mean, they make her into a pirate at one point just for one mission, and it never really goes anywhere. It really feels like they just didn't bother with providing a good plot, but would rather have a plot loose enough so we can have funny scenarios. However, I don't think that's a bad thing. I mean, this game doesn't need a deep plot. If you really think about it, no game needs to have a good story, but I would have liked one anyway. Just because you want players to have a good, fun, laugh-filled adventure that doesn't take itself seriously, doesn't mean you can't have a good story with good characters on top of that. I'm not going to even bother doing a whole plot synopsis thing because honestly, there's hardly anything here. It's what you would expect. The player who is your avatar comes in, meets some wacky characters, saves the day, there you go. That's it. So, if the characters are mainly here to provide jokes, then how is the humor of the game? Well, if you like fourth wall and LOL so random jokes, then you probably will enjoy Sunset Overdrive's comedy. For example, as a joke, every time you die, the death animation changes to reference something like Bill and Ted or Portal. It's a small thing, but it's not intrusive and it doesn't make me cringe, unlike the dialogue. I don't particularly like the type of comedy in this game, but that doesn't mean someone else won't like it. I think that comedy is subjective, and as such, if you don't mind the type of jokes and humor of Sunset Overdrive, then I think you will enjoy the game. I just personally don't like it because they do rely on random humor just a bit too much. Most of the jokes end up going nowhere with no payoff. Oh, this gun kinda looks like a dick. Isn't that funny? Haha. Well, I say that, but I'm sure someone is laughing. But the main reason I'm making a big deal out of this is because your enjoyment of Sunset Overdrive will largely depend on if you like this type of comedy. If you don't like the jokes, then there's hardly anything here for you. The main reason that you will keep on playing Sunset Overdrive is for all of the jokes and just kind of to see what crazy scenario your main character will get into now. But if you don't like the jokes, then, well, you won't really continue the game now, will you? But overall, I find Sunset Overdrive okay. It is a shame that the story is mediocre at best, and the comedy of the game will not be everyone's cup of tea, but the combat is solid enough for me to recommend it. I still had fun playing Sunset Overdrive, so if it seems like the game you would play, I recommend it. You may even like it more than I did. So with that said, thanks for watching.